Hi everyone, I'm Shierly Wilhelmina, and this video is part of my midterm task for Introduction to Literature, and I choose to explore the Old English period. Okay, so first of all, there is something very humbling about trying to find the beginning of something. Like, if you want to understand the present, first you must listen to the past, especially something as massive as the English language. um, we speak in it, we think in it, we text in it, we even argue in it. But where did it actually begin? So, before we talk about the authors or genres, we have to picture the world itself. So, let's pause here. First, we need context because stories don't come from nowhere, right? Okay, but wait. Right now, I want you to imagine a world without books. Yes, I want you to imagine it right now. No libraries, no novels, not even a name for literature. Can you imagine that? Okay, let's go because I want you to take you on a quiet journey with me, not into fiction, but into the very, very roots of English literature. So yes, today we enter the world of Old English literature, or what some call the Anglo-Saxon era, from about 450 AD to 1066 Anno Domini. And that's where this story goes. English literature didn't start. It never started with Jane Austen or William Shakespeare, but we are going earlier, way earlier. Okay, so let's talk about where it came from, what it was made of, and what it still teach us until right now. Okay, so part 1, the genre. Back then, there were no books because they didn't have time for fiction in the modern sense. So in this period, literature wasn't something you read, but it was something you heard with your ears. And about the genre, the main genre was poetry. But don't imagine roses and love letters. No, don't imagine that. Because it had some very unique features. Also, they had this cool thing called oral tradition. Oral poets had traveled from village to village, carrying stories like treasure chests in their minds. Okay, the genre itself. First, it had a lot of alliteration, so it's like repeating the same sound at the beginning of words. The second one is caesura, a pause in the middle of a line for rhythm. And the third one, repetition, it's to help both memorization and emotion, plus a strong word beat rhythm, almost like the beat of marching or rowing. So yes, it wasn't just art, it was identity. Poetry told people who they were, because when your life depends on gods, kings, and monsters, that's what you write about. If I should picture it, maybe poetry was like the Instagram of that time. And then part 2, themes. About the themes. Of course, they were not invented, they were discovered. They didn't ask what makes a good story. Instead, they just ask, what do we do in the face of death? And the answer was always some form of this. We tell something. That's the only answer. Okay, so a lot of Old English literature focused on fate, or what they call wyrd. So yes, people believe their destiny was already set, and even heroes couldn't escape it. And at the same time, Christianity started spreading throughout England. So in many stories, you will see a mix of pagan values like honor and bravery, and Christian values like faith and humility. Because when nothing is certain, sometimes belief is all you have. So yes, thematically, Old English works embody a culture on the knife edge between pagan fatalism and Christian moralism. and some of the most common themes were admiration of heroic warriors who risk everything, religious teachings and moral lessons, and a mix of pagan and Christian beliefs. It shows a society going through a major change both spiritually and culturally. And then part 3, historical context. So historically, this was a time of fragmentation and transition. So Britain was not yet England, but a land of tribal groups, Anglo-Saxons, Jutes, and later Danes, each bringing their own language, gods, and bloodlines. Communities were agrarian, clan-based, and war-torn. Leadership was local, ancestral, and earned through loyalty and strength. But then, change came, subtle but profound. Christian missionaries arrived, bringing with them not only faith but literacy. And with the Roman alphabet, so the oral tradition began to record it by monks in illuminated manuscripts. And finally, in 1066, the Norman Conquest swept across England. Led by William the Conqueror, it brought French feudalism and a whole new linguistic wave. So, the Old English period was over. Yes, it's in this liminal space between tribalism and centralization, between orality and literacy, that the literature of this age exists. And then, okay, part 4. Part 4 is major work is Beowulf. If one text defining this era, it's Beowulf. You might have heard it describe it as a heroic monster slaying tale, but that's like saying The Godfather is about family dinners, because he's more than that. Beowulf, an anonymous epic written by no known author, preserved by Christian scribes, yet deeply rooted in pre-Christian values. So Beowulf is not just a man, he is a symbol of strength, of legacy. He battles 3 beasts. Imagine that. Grendel, the monster of chaos. Grendel is mother. Phaeton's incarnated, and a dragon that ultimately ends him. Each enemy is more than just a foe. They represent existential challenge, the threat to order, the cost of patience, the reality of mortality. So yes, Beowulf wins, but he dies. That is the price of greatness in this worldview. There is no immorality, only legacy based on true story. So structurally, Beowulf fuses pagan heroism with Christian elegy. It admires strength yet mourns its passing. It speaks of fame, but also of divine will. It's about epic and eulogy, celebration and caution. So yes, in fact, he wins. His story live forever, but at its core, Beowulf is about doing everything right and still dying anyway. And then Beowulf in fact wasn't alone. Other figures rose in this time of transition. One of them is the Venerable Bede, a monk, a historian, a writer. His history of the English people was in poetry, but prose with purpose. So it gave a structure to the chaos, it brought order to the myth. And then there is the Exeter Book, manuscript full of old English poems and riddles passed down not as a performance but as your reflections. Together, these works capture the range of the period, from heroic epics like Beowulf to religious chronicles like Bede, to intimate poetic fragments in the Exeter Book. So, why you should know this? Like, look, you might think all English literature is just a bunch of dudes grinding in the dark, but no, it's very rich, it's raw, because in a world obsessed with the future. This text reminds us of our origins, originally, naturally. They show us what it meant to be human before everything. And they show us that even in the darker centuries, people still ask, what is truth, what is good, what is beautiful? And they answer with one word, with poetry. So yes, life expectancy was low, that was ordinary, and this kind of world storytelling was an entertainment, but it was very survival. So at the end, Old English literature reminds us that even in the darkest time, people look for purpose, believe in something greater, and pass it on through words. And maybe that's what literature is always really about. Not just reading or writing, but remembering what makes us human. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching.